Imagine a different reality, one where the German Wehrmacht prioritized production of the Panzer IV and StuG III over their heavier tanks like the Tiger and Panther. Could this decision have turned the tide of World War II in favor of the Axis powers? Germany's fascination with heavy tanks like the Tiger and Panther was rooted in a desire for battlefield superiority. These formidable machines boasted thick armor and powerful weaponry, designed to outgun and outlast any Allied tank. The concept was simple: dominate the battlefield with sheer firepower and invulnerability. However, this approach came with significant drawbacks: production complexity, resource constraints, and high maintenance costs. Building and fielding these tanks was a logistical nightmare, leading to fewer numbers being produced and frequent mechanical breakdowns. Now, let's explore the alternative: a focus on mass production of the Panzer IV and StuG III, Germany's workhorses. The Panzer IV was versatile, reliable, and effective in various combat scenarios, while the StuG III, a powerful assault gun, excelled in both offensive and defensive roles. Had Germany concentrated on these medium vehicles, they could have produced them in significantly larger quantities. Their simpler design and more manageable production costs meant they could be built quickly, efficiently, and in large numbers, critical factors in sustaining a prolonged war effort. Imagine if Germany had deployed thousands more Panzer IVs and StuG IIIs across the eastern and western fronts. These vehicles, combined with superior German tactics, could have overwhelmed Allied forces through sheer numbers and tactical flexibility. While the heavy tanks often fell victim to mechanical failures and fuel shortages, the Panzer IVs and StuG IIIs were more reliable and could be fielded more consistently. This would have allowed the Wehrmacht to maintain pressure on both fronts, effectively countering the Soviet T-34s and the Allied Shermans, and possibly slowing down the Allied advance or even turning the tide in critical battles like Kursk or Stalingrad. The Allies were often relieved when encountering fewer German tanks due to mechanical issues or the small number of heavy tanks available. A consistent and large force of Panzer IVs and StuG IIIs, however, would have been a terrifying prospect, enough to potentially erode the confidence and morale of Allied forces. Instead of worrying about a few heavy tanks, the Allies would have faced swarms of effective medium tanks, creating a battlefield dynamic that might have overwhelmed their numerical advantage. But let's not ignore the downsides. The Panzer IV and StuG III, while reliable, were still vulnerable to the increasingly powerful Allied anti-tank weapons. Moreover, Germany's production and logistics were already strained by the Allied bombing campaigns and resource shortages. Even with more medium tanks, Germany's strategic situation, fighting a war on multiple fronts against powerful adversaries, would still have been incredibly challenging. The Allied industrial capacity and manpower far outmatched Germany's by 1944, making victory a daunting task, even with a different tank production strategy. In the end, while more Panzer IVs and StuG IIIs might have prolonged the conflict or led to some tactical victories, it's unlikely they could have changed the ultimate outcome of World War II. The sheer scale of the Allied war machine, combined with their strategic bombing campaigns and the Soviet advance, would have been difficult to overcome regardless of the number of tanks Germany fielded. Nevertheless, it's fascinating to consider how different choices in production could have shaped the war. Thanks for joining us in this alternate history exploration. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content on military history and strategy.